is Margaret in Windsor, and I'll just say this. I've got other videos pertaining to mind control murders and my kidnapping, and I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in 41, brought to Moulton, Alabama, Lawrence County. That's 45 miles from Huntsville, NASA, Redstone Arsenal, etc. I've written about or tried writing about mind control murders back in 77, 78, and I was still full of antifreeze after I got a letter from the FBI stating national security involved ongoing investigation. Larry Flint was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, while I was doing the book in Marietta. That's near Acworth. Let me make a point. Acworth and Kennesaw is right there. So I wanted to make that point because of what I'm going to say. Larry Flint was shot in Lawrenceville, and the person was programmed to shoot him. And later, in a political campaign to replace one of the doctors, Larry McDonald, Congressman Doctor, who I had written about and about mind control when I wrote the book and tried to get it published and had the antifreeze put in me, April Fool Day of 80. I was flown out to Flint's during that campaign for his political support, and he did write an article, which I've put in the picture and all that, in it endorsing me and saying I knew who was responsible for his shooting in Georgia. And he also said they made a pauper out of me, and that they did. My father's real King Edward VIII, an imposter, married Wallace Simpson, and it was a takedown of my father. And then I was born in 39 in Victoria II, legal heir to the British Crown monarchy, not George VI, who helps kidnap me with Roosevelt, and Kennedy was ambassador. The New World Order, the Freemasons, who are in power now. Elizabeth is with them, and she's a member, and is Charles. So they sold out. They helped kidnap me, George VI, her father. Now then, my father was wed to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, an American Catholic, Irish, and it wasn't just necessarily that part of the family didn't like him. It was the New World Order planned it and orchestrated it. And in return, the United States put military bases all over British soil and used us, I'm speaking of us as me, British, as a launching pad to conquer the world, and they have pretty much so. Now, I want to go back because over the time they've kept doing, the agency deliberately kept doing the mind control murders in patterns, just like the Virginia Tech near here, April the 16th of '07, where the shooter from South Korea, he was a student, shot himself. And in a lot of these mind control murders, the shooter or person with a knife ends up killing himself because he's a victim himself, and people don't like to hear it. He's programmed. He has no knowledge of being programmed. He doesn't even know it. If he did, he would be sent to a psychiatrist who would put him on psychotic or drugs for a mental disorder, which is not what is happening. It's mind control being used. Mind control has nothing to do with mental illness. That is the sickest thing. You're treating a person for a non-existent illness, but it's misdiagnosis, and most of the psychiatrists or doctors, if they don't know it, then something's wrong with them. They should get out of the medical field. But what's wrong with the news media that know all this about my kidnapping and about the mind control murders? They're controlled by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, the very people that kidnap me. Now I want to go to this because this could be your son. Excuse me for showing you my bit of a bedroom here. This young man, his name is GEDDY Kramer. He is from Acworth, Georgia, which is not far from where I wrote the book, and so much happened to me. He was 19 years old. He's dead. He's dead. This is the Kennesaw shooting yesterday. They described him, well, he worked for, let me put this, he worked for FedEx warehouse there in Kennesaw, Georgia, just outside Marietta, Atlanta, Eckworth, this whole bit there that I have written about and where I lived and so much happened to me. Now then, I want to relate that if you followed me, and I'm not making up anything, there's a lot of murders and things that take place that are not done in patterns, and I'm not saying that they aren't done. Some of them aren't done with mind control, but I wouldn't know it because they're not done in patterns. It's an invisible weapon, murder weapon, can do mass, take over the world with it, and there's no looking back. Let me say that. Now, this is in Kennesaw, and they're saying that Kennesaw also had where you have to have guns. You know, you may or may not agree with that, but that has nothing to do. I certainly think you have the right to protect yourself. I certainly do. Uh, and the background checks won't even show where people have been programmed, and this is not their behavior. They are victims of programming. And no, they don't have a choice. You might like to think that unless it happened to you or your child. Now then, I can elaborate on that, but since I wrote the book back then and had it stopped because it put antifreeze in the April Fool Day of '80, and yeah, I went across the state line, was taken illegally, and that was a hell and what they did to me, and nobody's paid for anything in my life that they've done. They, as Elizabeth sitting there in her illegal brood using my money, um, she's benefited from it. She sold out Great Britain. So anyway, I'm going to go back to this before this runs out. This is in Kennesaw, near the airport there. FedEx, there was a FedEx, I want to remind you, out in California just about a week or so ago, and I put this on video where the FedEx veered into the tour bus and all those people, part of them were students, were killed, remember? And I said he was under mind control. It's the patterns that are in it. And so I want to go to this quick. There were 6. This is FedEx building he was in. But there's more to this. I'm not just picking it up because it's the FedEx and Kennesaw, but it's part of it. But here's what they said about him. They said that he looked like Rambo going to war. Well, what do you think? People under mind control, some of them, they don't even know what's happened to them. It's something happened. They don't understand. They can look wild or not. They can look kind, but this is, and he shoots himself just like so many of these have. The Kennesaw student, and there's a list out here. The psychiatrist at Fort Hood that shot those fellow Army people there, he finished at Blacksburg, Virginia Tech near me. I'm in Roanoke, Salem, and he finished school there. He was born here in Roanoke, Benton. But that's the mind control. So when I say they are, they are. That's all I can say, and they'll keep going. People don't want to tell about it because it'd lead back to me and the Kennedys, and then the father was ambassador to England and kidnapped me and helped take down my dad, and that's all been a lie about my dad. But anyway, 6 people were shot in the ambush. Officials said all the victims were treated for gunshot blasts. Kennesaw Regional Medical Center, where 3 remain in critical condition. But I've forgotten he shot himself with a shotgun, this young fellow did, and he, I think he had a knife on him, and he had some Molotov cocktails. Now then, this goes back also to the Columbine, and these were done in pattern over the years. There's a whole bunch more that I've told about. So I'm going to stop here. I'm about to run out of time. I'm going to, anyway, I'll leave it at that. What if this was your son or your daughter, okay, or you?